Week 3 of the 2021 college football season is in the books, and as we head into Week 4, I'll be giving you guys my updated rankings for this 2021 college football season. And Week 3 was an insane week. We saw several top 25 matchups, some very surprising outcomes as well. And overall, we're starting to see which teams are potentially the main college football playoff contenders in this 2021 season. So that being said, I'll be giving you guys my Week 4 rankings here today. And we're going to go ahead and get started with 1 through 7. At number 1, no surprise at all, it's going to be Alabama Crimson Tide. They beat Florida on the road 31-29 this past weekend. Overall, very impressive win out of Alabama. And, I mean, of course, it looked like it was going to be a blowout, especially after the first quarter, when I believe it was 21-3. But overall, Florida, they kept up and made it a closer game than expected. 31-29 was the overall score. Still, very impressive win out of Alabama. And to me, they are the clear number 1 team in the nation right now at 3-0. Georgia beat South Carolina at home 40-13, and they're also an undefeated team as of right now. And honestly, the top two, I mean, there is a gap right now between the top two and the rest of the nation. I mean, Alabama and Georgia are both outstanding football teams, and they're clearly the best teams in the nation to me right now. Oregon is number 3. They beat Stony Brook 48-7, and they're actually swapping spots with Oklahoma from my rankings last week. So obviously these are actually, in case if you're new to the channel, of course, this is not the AP poll or the coaches poll. These are my personal rankings. And Oklahoma was number 3 last week for me, but now they're going to be number 4. Oklahoma just did not look very good against Nebraska. I mean, they got an outstanding quarterback in Spencer Rattler, but to be fully honest, I mean, Spencer Rattler just did not play very good yesterday. And Oklahoma, I mean, this is a football team that's got a tremendous amount of talent. But until they put up a very impressive performance, like they're going into conference play now, this is where they can do it. I'm going to keep Oklahoma still in the top 4, but I think Oregon deserves 1 spot higher than Oklahoma as of right now. Both teams are undefeated, but Oregon right now has got a more quality win than Oklahoma. But credit to Nebraska. I mean, they kept it really close with Oklahoma this past weekend. But Oklahoma did end up getting the win by a touchdown, 23-16. But that offense, I mean, they've got more talent than to only put up 23 points. But overall, once again, credit to Nebraska. They played a good game. But Oklahoma, I still think definitely has got a tremendous amount of talent to and potential to make the college football playoff this season. But we just have not seen that kind of talent quite yet out of Oklahoma. But for number 5, it's going to be Iowa. They're moving up 1 position after last weekend. They beat Kent State 30-7. Impressive win. I mean, Iowa is overall looking like a very talented team. And, I mean, Iowa, who knows? They could be the best team in the Big Ten in this 2021 season. Penn State comes in at number 6. They had that huge win against Auburn last night, 28-20. And they're moving up 5 positions after last weekend. Very interesting. We're going to be able to see Iowa and Penn State play each other in Iowa City here in a couple of weeks. And that's going to be a huge matchup for both Iowa and Penn State. I mean, the winner of that matchup is likely going to be either a top 5 already, but top 4 team potentially. So that's going to be a huge game coming up here in a couple of weeks. Cincinnati's number 7. They beat Indiana 38-24. And Cincinnati's kind of in an interesting situation as well. I mean, they got Notre Dame in a couple of weeks, and Cincinnati, they got a quality win against Indiana on the road and a very dominant win as well. And so if Cincinnati, if they can dominate Notre Dame in a couple of weeks, I mean, Cincinnati could potentially be a college football playoff contender. Yes, I am saying that a group of 5 team could be a college football playoff contender if Cincinnati can dominate Notre Dame in a couple of weeks. Cincinnati's 3-0 right now, looking as good as ever. On to 8 through 14, we got Clemson at number 8. I kept Clemson in the top 4 last week, but after their 6-point win over Georgia Tech, and only putting up 14 points, by the way, against a pretty mediocre Georgia Tech team, Clemson, I am moving them down 4 positions to number 8. They still deserve to be in the top 10, but as of right now, I'm staying conservative on Clemson. I think this is a Clemson team that's got a tremendous amount of talent. They should be considered as a definite potential college football playoff team still, but Clemson as of right now, I'm gonna keep them at number 8, but still in the top 10 for sure. Texas A&M's number 9. This is also a pretty questionable team in Texas A&M right now. I mean, they got a pretty interesting quarterback situation. Zach Calzada was the quarterback this past weekend. He played pretty well overall, but Texas A&M still has a few unanswered questions about their team, and I need to see a dominant win for Texas A&M over a good team in order for me to be confident about the Aggies right now. But they're number 9. They're still in the top 10. and they shut out New Mexico this past weekend 34-0. Florida lost to Alabama by 2, and they're only moving down 2 after this past weekend. Overall, Florida did not look terrible. I mean, it was a 21-3 deficit that they had to overcome after the first quarter. So it was, I mean, it's tough to be an Alabama team when you get down by 18. I mean, Florida came back, but I mean, yeah, this is still a Florida team that's very talented, and I do think that they still deserve a top 10 position. But I mean, yeah, they almost came back. If they could have beaten Alabama, that would have been absolutely insane. It was close though. But then you got Ohio State at number 11. Ohio State is a very interesting team as well right now. I mean, of course, they beat Tulsa 41-20, but Tulsa was just a team that lost to an FCS team a couple of weeks ago. And Ohio State, it was very close between those two teams for a long time in that game. So Ohio State definitely, I think, has got some questions to answer. I mean, Ohio State just does not look very good so far in this 2021 season. They've got the talent. I mean, they got a great quarterback. They've got a tremendous amount of talent, but I mean, Ohio State just does not look too good so far in this 2021 season. So I'm moving them down 1 after last week to number 11. But they're still, once again, very capable of being a playoff team this season. But they got to really pick up the pace here if they want to get to that position. Ole Miss is number 12. Ole Miss, potential surprise team of this 2021 season there. They beat Tulane 61-21. By the way, Oklahoma only beat Tulane by 5. So Ole Miss beating Tulane by 40. Pretty impressive win for the Rebels. They're moving up 3 positions to number 12. Iowa State beat UNLV on the road last night 48-3. They're moving up 1 position after that win, and they're 2-1. Notre Dame's number 14. They beat Purdue by 2 touchdowns, but that was also a very close game for a long time there between Notre Dame and Purdue. So Notre Dame, I'm moving them down 2 positions, and if they can beat Wisconsin next week, then I'll probably move Notre Dame up to probably number 11 or 12, I'd assume. But Notre Dame, they do have a big game coming up against Wisconsin. That's really where we're going to find out whether Notre Dame is a for real team or not. But for now, they're still undefeated at 3-0. I mean, if you're a Cincinnati fan here, you definitely want Notre Dame to win next week, because for Cincinnati to make the playoff, for one, they got to dominate the rest of their schedule. And that includes, I mean, you got to beat Notre Dame. And I mean, if you're a Cincinnati fan, you're definitely cheering hard for Notre Dame this next weekend to beat Wisconsin, because once again, that put Notre Dame in a pretty good position. But let's look at 15 through 21 now. Michigan State, 2 teams looking very good so far this season, and they're moving up to 15 and 16. Michigan beat Northern Illinois 63-10 this past weekend, and they're undefeated at 3-0. They're moving up 7 positions after week 3. Michigan State's moving up 9 positions after the win at Miami 38-17. Ended up being a blowout win for the Spartans. And Michigan State quite possibly could be the big surprise team as well this 2021 season. I mean, Peyton Thorne, no one expected anything out of him heading into this 2021 season, including myself. I personally thought Michigan State would probably be one of the worst teams in the Big Ten in this 2021 season, but right now they're looking like one of the best, which is insane to me. But good for Michigan State. They're playing well, and I like to see them succeed. They're number 16 though right now for me, and I mean, they had a very impressive win over Miami, so watch out for them moving forward. BYU enters the rankings at number 17. They are for real. I mean, they beat Arizona State 27-17. They're looking very good right now. 2 very good back-to-back wins against Utah and Arizona State. So BYU cracks the top 20 already, and they're 3-0. Wisconsin had a bye week, but they're moving down 2 positions in order to make room for Michigan State and BYU. Same thing with Michigan. I mean, Wisconsin's a good football team, but they're 1-1 right now. And if they can beat Notre Dame, they'll probably jump over Michigan and Michigan State. But for Wisconsin right now, I'm going to stick them at number 18, kind of on standby. Number 19 is North Carolina. They beat Virginia 59-39, quality win. And they're staying at the same position at 2-1. And at ranked number 19. Arkansas's number 20. They beat Georgia Southern 45-10, solid win for the Razorbacks. They're moving up 3 positions after last week, and they're 3-0. Auburn's number 21. They lost to Penn State by 8 this past weekend, 20-28, and they're moving down 4 positions. I don't want to move Auburn down too far. That is still a very talented team, but I mean, obviously, when you take a loss, you do got to get moved down. Auburn is 2-1 still, and they're still a very talented football team. So if you're playing Auburn at some point this season, that is still a talented football club. On to 22 through 25, Coastal Carolina moves down 1 position after their 3-point win over Buffalo on the road. Coastal Carolina, I mean, they're a good football team, but I don't know if they're a top 15 team right now. I still think Coastal Carolina is a very talented football team, but I mean, after a 3-point win against Buffalo, I'm going to put them at number 22, but they're still undefeated at 3-0. Kansas State enters the rankings at number 23. They beat Nevada 38-17, quality win for the Wildcats, and Kansas State is in the rankings at 3-0. Fresno State is number 24, and they're entering the rankings as well after a good win against UCLA. They beat them 40-37 last night. That was a very impressive win out of Fresno State. I mean, if you look at that Bulldog team, I mean, they're looking pretty good right now. And their only loss of the season, by the way, is to Oregon, which Oregon is currently ranked 3rd. So I think Fresno State is worthy of a ranking. UCLA is number 25. They're moving down 12 positions after their loss against Fresno State. Speaking of which, UCLA, I mean, this is a team that was looking very good after week 2. But, I mean, UCLA, after taking a loss like that, I mean, that's very unfortunate for the Bruins, as they're now at 2-1. So first 5 out, Oklahoma State's 26, Virginia Tech is 27, TCU 28, Maryland 29, Texas 30. So that's your first 5 out there. We got 3 Big 12 teams in there in the first 5 out. As for the teams that dropped out after last week, Virginia Tech was number 17. They lost, I believe, to West Virginia, and so they're dropping out. Arizona State lost to BYU. They were 20 last week, and Miami has just been a strip disappointment. They lost last week to Michigan State big, and they were ranked 24. So that being said, that wraps it up for my week 4 rankings. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on these rankings. But I mean, I tell you what, this 2021 season so far has been one of the most, I'd say, engaging and entertaining seasons that I can remember right now. I mean, if we've seen so many surprise teams, we've seen some big upsets. Ohio State and Clemson are at the top of the rankings right now. Which obviously credit to them. They're great football teams, but it's a nice change. And I mean, it's a very interesting 2021 season here. So, I mean, it's going to be very interesting from here on out, I can guarantee you. So that being said, I appreciate you guys all watching. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll see you later.